When you think of cities that were run by the mafia, Kansas City isn't usually thought of. Beautiful parks and large fountains hold a more sinister, underground secret. However, Kansas City is a city with deep mafia history, from crooked politicians to powerful mob bosses. The Kansas City Mafia runs much deeper than you may think, starting with Thomas J. Pendergast. Tom Pendergast, otherwise known as Boss Tom, was a Kansas City politician and the leader of the Jackson Democratic Club, the organization of the Pendergast machine. Although he did not hold formal office, he was still the most powerful political figure in Kansas City. His power rose even more in the mid-1930s through prostitution, gambling, and corruption. Posing as a businessman, he helped people get jobs, he kept alcohol flowing through the Prohibition era, and he helped politicians into office. He later partnered with Johnny Lazia to take over the police department. He and Lazia staffed it with gangsters and ex-convicts who protected and took orders from gangsters. The arrangement led to the Union Station Massacre. This event formed the federal law enforcement that we know today. Johnny Lazia, also known as Brother John, rose to power by challenging Irish control. In 1928, he became the boss of the North Side Democratic Club. He participated in politics and organized crime. He was well liked among civilians in their eyes. He could do no wrong. When he joined Pendergast and the Pendergast machine, he became even more powerful. However, in 1929, he was arrested and convicted of tax evasion. Not even 10 years later, tragedy struck. At 3 a.m. on July 10, 1934, Johnny, his wife, and his bodyguard had arrived at a hotel after a night on the town. Lazia had exited the car and was just about to help his wife out when two men emerged from the bushes with a submachine gun and a sawed-off shotgun. Lazia pushed his wife back in the car and ordered his bodyguard to drive off. Lazia was sprayed with bullets and left to die on the sidewalk outside of the hotel. He later died in St. Joseph Hospital. Apparently, before dying, Lazia told the doctor, "Doc, what I can't understand is why anybody would do this to me. Why to me?" To Johnny Lazia, who was a friend of everybody. Thousands of people showed up to his funeral, perhaps the biggest in Kansas City. Furthermore, police traced the bullets found in Lazia's body to bullets found at the Union Station after the Union Station massacre, which led police to believe it was a Lazia ally that had him killed. The long and corrupt reign of Tom Pendergast came to an end in 1939. An investigation led by Special Agent Rudolph Hartman resulted in Pendergast being convicted for tax evasion. The investigation began in early 1938. An official in the Washington headquarters of the Bureau of Internal Revenue quit to take a private job, but before he left, he tipped off a reporter for the Kansas City Star about a bribe from Pendergast. Said reporter, called Lloyd C. Stark, who at the time was the government of Missouri and known enemy of Pendergast. Stark then went to Washington, D.C. to inform President Roosevelt, then ordered the Department of Treasury to investigate Pendergast's income taxes. A simple thing caused the collapse of the Pendergast machine. While all of this was going down, a young Nicholas Civella, also known as Nick, was slowly rising to power. But first, let's start with who Nick Civella was.
Nick Civella, first of all, he was he hated law enforcement intensely, hated us, and that was part of the that was part of being a mafioso. That comes from Sicily, but he was very argumentative, confrontational, very hard to have a discussion with him. Where you would talk to some guy on the street, even though he was a criminal, Nick was always a confrontational type of guy.
Also involved in a mob war that possibly caused the fall of an entire city district called the Quay. The Quay is where one would go for entertainment, dancing, gambling, whatever. However, the multiple arsons, shootings, and bombings caused people to shy away from it. The war involved the Civellas and the Spiros. The Spiro brothers blamed Civella for the death of their fourth brother, who, earlier, was found in the trunk of a car. Eventually, everything came to a breaking point. In May of 1978, 3 men stormed into a tavern where the 3 brothers were getting lunch and opened fire. Michael Spiro was killed while Carl Spiro and Joseph Spiro had survived. Carl was paralyzed from the waist down while Joseph was only hit in the arm. They were both later killed by bombs in 2 different locations. The downfall of Civella began with the FBI case called Strawman. However, it was hard to catch a mafia doing anything. The case took a turning point in 1978 when the FBI won court authority to plant listening devices. At the time, though, Civella was in jail for tax evasion, but thanks to the bug planted in phones, the FBI learned that he was still pulling strings while locked up. They tapped payphones and heard orders from Civella himself. Civella was placed under arrest, and the Strawman case was closed. Nick Civella passed away in 1983 due to lung cancer. After his death, the Kansas City crime family fell apart. When Civella died, so did the loyalty. These were the last known instances of mafia activity in Kansas City, save for a small gang-related activity, but one may never know what goes on behind closed doors.